listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Well, happy Wednesday evening, folks. This is Scotty Roberts. You know what day it is? It's hump day. Yeah, it's Wednesday. And I want to welcome you to my program. And by the way, it's 23rd of December. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve day, and then Christmas Eve, and then Christmas on Friday. So we're going to be here all those days. So if you have things that you want to do on Christmas Day, or the Christmas Day festivities have wound down, just like Thanksgiving, we'll be here Christmas night, and we will do a live program on Christmas night at the regularly scheduled 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, and 7 p.m. West Coast time. And by the way, this is Scotty Roberts. You're listening to my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. You can also watch the video simulcast over on my YouTube channel. And that's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. The best part of the video simulcast on YouTube is the live chat room that's going on right now. And so come on over, join the chat, watch the chat, whatever you'd like to do. Come on over, join, subscribe to my YouTube page, and you can also hit the join button, which, if I didn't get a copyright hit tonight, would be right under this window. Down in the right, you'd see a join button. And that join button allows you to choose through 3 different membership levels. Go take a look at that. Join the channel. If you don't find it there, just look in the description down below the video, and you're going to see a link you can click on to go to the join channel, or the join link. Or you can go out to the main page on my YouTube channel and hit join on the right side just below the header. So there you go, folks. That's all there is to say about that. I want to welcome you to the show tonight. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about. We're going to get into our matchstick courage. And we're also going to touch back on Enoch, which is the title of tonight's show. And I want to spend the bulk of our time in that because there's a lot of information to cover. And about this whole thing of holy language, sacred language. So we're going to talk about the book of Enoch and who Enoch was. And we just introduced that last night at the end of the show. And before we do, one article popped up in front of my face before I started. First of all, I was going to talk and spend a little bit of time on this whole relief stimulus package that the House has passed, the Senate has passed, and which President Donald Trump may veto. And everybody's going to be up in arms about him vetoing. But did you see his video, his little speech about why he vetoed this, or why he may veto this? He has sent it back to Congress and said, fix this. This is a horrible bill. You know what most Americans are getting? $600 out of this bill per person. $1,200. You get a lot more. You're $1,200 if you're 2 people. Wait, that's only $600 and $600. And if you have kids like I do, you get $600 per child. For us, that would add up to what's $1,200 and $1,800? That's $3,000. So we would get $3,000 probably as early as next week. Now, the president said he will veto it if they don't fix it. There are things in that bill. And maybe we'll cover this in more detail tomorrow because I don't want to take up our time on it tonight. There are things in that bill that have absolutely nothing to do with COVID stimulus for the citizens of the United States. A paltry $600 to help people who for 10 months since the last time the nation helped out with $1,200 per person, now that $600 is supposed to placate us. It's a loaf of bread being thrown from the wagon just before you enter the gladiatorial games. It's bread and circuses, folks. $600 or $1,200, or in our case, even $3,000 comes in handy. What can you do with $3,000? I can pay 2 months' worth of my rent in my townhome. So, you know, $3,000 is $3,000. But what about all the other money that's being spent in that bill? Have you gone to look it up? Rather than me take showtime to go through all of that today. I might do that tomorrow, depending on how far we get with Enoch tonight. Have you looked up what's in the bill? Have you broken it down? The billions being spent to Cambodia, to Pakistan to study gender issues. What has that got to do with helping small businesses and restaurants in the United States, to help people who've lost work in the United States? What does that do to help the United States citizen? Why is it being called a stimulus bill? If you've got billions being sent to other countries to help them study gender issues. You've got money being sent, millions of dollars being sent to study fallen trees. Yeah, you heard that right. And there's a whole list of things. I encourage you to go over and educate yourself about what's in this bill. And where you might be saying, wow, that $600 might come in real handy. $1,200 if you're a couple. $3,000 if you're a couple with 3 kids at home. You might go, wow, that come in real handy. I kind of hope it passes. Why would you hope that passes? Donald Trump said, I'm proposing the Congress take all the crap out of this bill and give each individual $2,000 to help them after 10 months of struggles. It still isn't enough, but he said, let's help small businesses. Let's help restaurants. Let's help people who are losing their businesses. Let's help the individual. Give $2,000 per person, $4,000 per couple. You got 3 kids. What is it? That's $7,000. So, I'm sorry, that's more than that. That's $4,000. If you get $2,000 per kid, if that's what it is, that's another $600. That's $10,000 if you have 3 kids, as opposed to a couple with 3 kids. It gets $3,000. So anyway, all that to say, go look up the bill before you support it. Before you say, maybe the president should sign this. Maybe the president's a dope and an idiot. He just won't sign it because he's not the president and blah, 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 blah. He's not signing it because it's a bad bill. He's not signing it because it's not a bill that helps the American public. It gives the American public, it's throwing the American public, instead of a loaf of bread, it's throwing them a slice of bread. Here's your bread. Go away. We've helped you. Of course, Joe Biden has promised that he'll do this many more times over the course of the next year once he's seated as president. Well, all of that to say, I've spent more time on it tonight than I wanted to. Go look up the bill. Look up the stimulus bill. Look at the items where the money, get the breakdown of where the money is going, and tell me you are still for this bill in its present form, when you're only, as an American citizen, getting $600 to help you over the last 10 months. There you go. Let's leave it at that. I was going to get into something else, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave that alone. Matchbook Courage. Let's just do a quick one. As you know, I'm doing these Spark Courage. Let's pull a match for today. Let's see what it says. See if it's one we've had before. Yeah, we just had that one, Live Authentically. So let's dig a little deeper. Let's see if we can get one we haven't had yet. Take time for yourself, even if it means, we haven't had this. We have had variations of this, but take time for yourself. Here, look at that. Take time for yourself, even if it means saying no to other people. Take time for yourself. Does that build your courage? Does that build your boldness? No. Perhaps saying to somebody else, however, does. Saying to somebody, no, I don't have time for that today. I used to have the toughest time. My business is creating logos, doing illustrations, creating websites and things for people. I've had more trouble over the years telling people no when they ask me for favors. Hey, I know that it costs, you normally charge for this, but, we're hurting and we're just wondering if you could help us. If we can do this and get this thing going, we can pay you later. And you know what? That rarely has ever happened. Now, I've had people that have asked me if I could defer payments, and they give me a payment. And that works. It's worked before. I got no problem with that. But saying no to people who are asking for a piece of you, maybe they aren't even thinking it's a negative thing. But you need to look at that and say, am I in a position where I can give of myself or my time? And so you want to look at that, and you want to take time for yourself to say no. Not take time. Make yourself a priority, is what I'm trying to say. Make yourself a priority to let other people know that your time is valuable. Make time for yourself and say no to other people. It's boldness and courage. It takes a little boldness and a little courage. Sometimes you think, oh, we're going to hurt somebody's feelings by saying no. Well, did they think that they might hurt you by asking you to do something that's outside your time? So don't feel at all bad, but courageously and boldly and happily say, oh, you know what? You know what I've been able to do lately myself? Just in the last couple of years, I would love to do that for you, but I can't do it. I've got work on my plate. Sometimes I've pushed it off on my wife. I say, you know what? My wife will have my head on a platter if I take on another free job. So I really can't help you out. If you can find your way to meet me halfway on price, I'll spread that out for you, and I'll do this for you, and I'll work with you. But free work is really tough to come by, and I've had to say no. So sometimes it's okay to say no. Be bold. Put yourself first and say, no, you know what? I baked the pie. I'm going to take my slice of pie. You know what? I might have 2 slices because I put all the work into it. And then if I have any left over, I'll let you have some. So it's okay to do that, folks. You don't need my permission. You need your own permission. You need to ask yourself, is it okay for me to say no to things? Sometimes saying no is the most gracious thing you can do for yourself. Tell people no. No. Hey, Steve, will you make me up a pot of chili? You can say yes if you want. You can also say, no, Scotty, I don't have time. I can't do it today. Maybe in a couple of months I could do something for you. Something like that. Hey, Susie Q, can you bake me up some baked goods? I love pastries. You might be full to the eyelids with pastries for other people. And you can say, you know what, Scotty? No, I can't. It's okay. It's okay to say no. So there you go, folks. I'm going to leave you with that. We're 13 minutes into the show, and I want to get to this stuff on Enoch because I want you to see this. I want you to see what we were talking about. Last night, we left off starting to talk about the Great Pyramid and the initial idea for the Tower of Babel originate. Where did that originate from? People of Shinar must have acquired the knowledge from somebody prior to them. And when I researched the Book of Enoch, reaching into the arsenals of the biblical scriptures and outside the canonized Old and New Testaments, my personal belief, as I said yesterday, aside from what the scholars say, is that the oldest book in human history dates back to approximately 5,000 years ago, originally written in Hebrew, and it was the Book of Enoch. And we gave that quote yesterday from Alexander the Great. In his writings said, when I came to such a place in India, the natives told me that they had with them a sepulchre of an ancient king that ruled over all the world, whose name was Canaan, and the son of Enoch, who foreseeing that God would bring a flood upon the earth, wrote his prophecy of it in the tables of stone, and they're here. The writing is Hebrew. So you can do with that what you want. Enoch is mentioned in the Bible. He's quoted 128 times in the Bible. Jesus quoted from him. Apostle Paul quoted from him. The prophets and the minor prophets quoted from Enoch. And those books are older than the book that was written in 400 by Berosus. 400s. So Enoch is the pivotal key to the whole mystery of the ages. Sadly, Enoch, and this is where we ended yesterday, is the greatest story never told. But who was he? Why is he being obscured and blotted out from mainstream knowledge? Why don't we know much about him? And this is a topic I told you my publisher, New Page Books, approached me 2 years ago to ask me if I would be willing to write a book about Enoch. And I said, yes, I will. And I hit back with them a couple of times, and I had all these health issues and junk, and it got pushed aside. And so I contacted my publisher not long ago, and I said, you still willing to have me write? He says, hey, you write us up the book, and we'll do it. So I still got to write this book, but I think this is the angle I'm going to take about it being the greatest story never told. Who was he? Why has his book been obscured? Now, you can find it. You can go to Amazon and type in the Book of Enoch. You can find it. You can find interpretations of the Book of Enoch. Now, why was he blotted out from mainstream knowledge? Now, surprisingly, our modern Bible lives up to a number of supportive facts about Enoch. It gives us Enoch's lineage, which helps us determine the era in which he lived. Enoch lived in the antediluvian era before the great flood of Noah. Antediluvian, pre-flood, pre-deluge. This is estimated in a biblical chronology to be about 5,000 years ago or more. Now, that's biblical chronology. I think geology has shown us that the great flood could have taken place about 7,000 to 8,000 years ago, which would be about 5,000 BCE. Enoch was in the line of Seth. And Seth, who was the third son of Adam and Eve. Genesis 4:25 says, Adam lay with his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, saying, God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. Now, when I was doing my studies on that verse for my books on both the rise and fall of the Nephilim, and I included it in the secret history of the reptilians, there is something about that verse when you parse it down in the Hebrew that's very sad and very bittersweet. Here you have a mother who's lost one of her sons, murdered by her other son. And she says, the Lord has given me a child to replace my lost son, Abel, who was killed by his brother Cain, my other son. There's some bittersweetness in that. There's also a bit of a chronology there. When we talk about Cain going to other cities, and these were what cities, what people, what woman did he marry, and so on, it's saying that there might have been other people out there that weren't of the line of Adam. And if this is so, you look at the line here, so far all you've got is, according to the biblical chronology and genealogy, you've got Adam, Eve, and who? Cain and Abel. Well, Abel's gone. Cain murdered him. God has given me another son. So remember, Cain fled and went east to the land of Nod and married a woman and built a city. Abel's already gone here when she gives birth to Seth. So this has already happened. And now she's giving birth to her third child, Seth. So according to the biblical lineup, there weren't any other people. So where did those people come from? That's a totally other story. We've talked about it before. So now Enoch was the seventh generation from Adam. He was the father of Methuselah and the great-grandfather of Noah. That's Genesis 5:18 through 24. Jared lived 162 years and begat Enoch. After he begat Enoch, Jared lived 800 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died, probably of old age. Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. After he begat Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Hebrews 11:5 says, by faith Enoch was taken away so that he did not see death, and was not found because God had taken him. For before he was taken, he had this testimony, that he pleased God. What a great story when you think about that. Could you imagine that? I don't know how you view God or the divine or the creator or the originator. But wouldn't it be fantastic if it's said of you, and you walked on this earth so many days, and you walked with God, and God was so pleased with you that he took you. You didn't see death because you pleased God. Wouldn't that be a neat story to have in your life? Enoch walked with God and was not, for God took him. Now, here's the full lineage. It's taken from the book of Genesis 5, 1 through 32. This is 32 verses. I'm going to read this, and this is going to be the end of the first segment. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them and called their name Adam. Adam is the word for mankind in the Hebrew. And in the day when they were created, and Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness, and after his image, and called his name Seth. So we don't know how soon Cain and Abel were born, but Adam's 130 years old when he fathers his son Seth. And the days of Adam after he'd begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years, and begat Enos. And Seth lived after he begat Enos 800 years, and 7 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years, and begat Canaan. And Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years, and begat Mahalaleel. And Canaan lived after he begat Mahalaleel 840 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalaleel lived 65 years, and begat Jared. And Mahalaleel lived after he begat Jared 830 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalaleel were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived and begat 162 years, and he begat Enoch. And Jared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And we'll end that there, even though there's more to this genealogy, because we're out of time in the first segment. Guys, sit tight. We're going to be right back in about 2 minutes.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
All right, gang, thanks for sitting on through that break. This is Scotty Roberts. Welcome back to my show, the Intrepid radio program. You can hear it audibly on the Odyssey Radio Network, ODYSY1.com. Come on over and see all the goodness it's Odyssey Radio. You can also watch the video simulcast and join the live chat room going on right now over on my YouTube page. And that's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. While you're there, subscribe, hit the little bell. You'll get announcements every day. And also hit the little join button, which is on this video. It's also in the listing below the video. It's also out on the main page of youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. Hit the join button, see 3 membership levels you can join, and the perks that you can get if you do join this channel. Now let's carry on where we left off. We're talking about Enoch. I had to drop at the end of the first segment due to the running out of time, and that's mostly for the radio audience, the audio audience over at Odyssey. For the video, we can carry on as long as we want, but we have to fit certain time constraints for the audio over on Odyssey Radio. So we were talking, we said all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God and was not, for God took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years and begat Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he begat Lamech 782 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died, no doubt, of old age. 969. By the way, he's considered to be the oldest man in the Bible. And Lamech, his son, lived 182 years, and he begat a son. Imagine if you were 182. All these guys were in their hundreds before they even had kids. Man, they sowed their wild oats for 182 years, settled down, got married, had a kid. And he begat a son, and he called his name Noah, saying, "This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed." And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years. And he begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And in Genesis 7:6 it says, Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters came on the earth. And in 928, after the flood, Noah lived 350 more years. Altogether, Noah lived 950 years, and then he died. And interestingly enough, from this point forward, lifespans after the flood dropped considerably. Now, there is a theory, and I've talked about this before, that there was a vapor canopy that covered the earth. It was like, the way I can describe it physically, it would be as if you went outside on a hot summer day. You never saw blue sky. There's not a cloud in the sky, but there's this vapor canopy. So everything was like a mist up in the firmament, the higher sky. And the sun would be not a clean, clear ball against a blue sky, but it would be a hazy, round ball. as you're seeing it through a water canopy that enveloped the earth. This is one of the theories in theology that's put forward. And so at the flood, it said the heavens were broken open and the deep places of the earth spilled forth. And this is supposed to be supposedly all these caves we have, this cave system, is supposed to be a remnant of where the waters gushed forth. The sky broke open, the vapor canopy vanished, but it flooded the earth. And of course, when this was all done, according to this theory, there is some science that backs this up, but I don't have it in front of me for today. But this is when the sky turned blue. You started to be able to see the blue sky. And this is where the ultraviolet rays of the sun came in and started to age us differently. So that's the theory. So Genesis 11:11 says, "And after he became the father of Arphaxad, Shem lived 500 years and had other sons and daughters." Shem, one of the sons of Noah. "And when Arphaxad had lived 35 years, 35, not 180, 35 years, he became the father of Shelah. And after he became the father of Shelah, Arphaxad lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. And when Shelah had lived 30 years, he became the father of Eber. And after he became the father of Eber, Shelah lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters." Notice the lifespan is dropping to about half of what it used to be pre-flood. "When Eber had lived 34 years, he became the father of Peleg. And after he became the father of Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg had lived 30 years, he became the father of Ru. And after he became the father of Ru, Peleg lived 209 years and had other sons and daughters. When Ru had lived 32 years, he became the father of Serug. And after he became the father of Serug, Ru lived 207 years and had other sons and daughters. When Serug had lived 30 years, he became the father of Nahor. And after he became the father of Nahor, Serug lived 200 years and had other sons and daughters. When Nahor had lived 29 years, he became the father of Terah. And after he became the father of Terah, an important name, Nahor lived 119 years and had other sons and daughters. And after Terah had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And this is the account of Terah. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran became the father of Lot. You hear about Lot in the Old Testament. While he dwelt in Sodom, in the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities of the plains in Sodom and Gomorrah. And Haran died in Ur of the Chaldees and in the land of his birth. While his father Terah was still alive, Haran died. And Abram and Nahor both married. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah. She was the daughter of Haran, the father of both Milcah and Iscah. Now Sarai was barren. She had no children. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of his son Abram, and together they set out from Ur of the Chaldees to go to Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years, and he died in Haran. Sarah lived to be 127 years old. Altogether, Abram lived 175 years old. Isaac, his son, lived 180 years. Jacob lived in Egypt 17 years, and the years of his father were 147. After this, Job lived 140 years. He saw his children and their children to the 4th generation, and so he died old and full of years. Then in Exodus, these were the names of the sons of Levi, according to their records: Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Levi lived 137 years. The sons of Kohath were Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. Kohath lived 133 years. Amram married his father's sister, his aunt, Jochebed, who bore him Aaron and Moses. Amram lived 137 years. Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength dimmed or gone. That was Deuteronomy 34:7. And after these things, Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. And in 1 Chronicles 29, David, son of Jesse, was king over all Israel. He ruled over Israel 40 years, 7 in Hebron and 33 in Jerusalem, and he died at a good old age, having enjoyed a long life, wealth, and honor. His son Solomon succeeded him as king. And David lived to approximately 80 years old. So what's the reason? Now that was lengthy. I hope that was interesting. If you've never read through those genealogies before, that's what it sounds like out of the Old Testament. Now, what's the reason for eliminating the book of Enoch, do you think? Could it be the fact that the Jews rejected it because it contained prophecies pertaining to the coming Messiah? Or perhaps it was because of something even more threatening. Could Enoch have been eliminated and rejected by the Jews? Could it be to conceal it in order to prevent us from making the crucial connections and thus preventing us from the knowledge that there is power in the original Hebrew language? Let's take an even closer look at Enoch. The most profound thing about Enoch was that he was noted as the first scribe in human history. The first scribe in human history. Not Mesopotamian history, not Canaanite history, human history. This information can be found in the Hebrew book of Jubilees, which was lost for a long time ago, but it was written about 2,000 years ago. It was found in the caves in Qumran, in the settlement next to where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. The Jubilees manuscript is incredibly special. It bears testimony that human beings did not create a language. This is where this is all going. Human beings did not create a language. Human beings did not create an alphabet. Jubilees tells us, it distinctly tells us that Enoch was the first person on the face of the earth to use handwriting. And he was given, or shown and taught, he was given, shown, and taught this alphabet by God's appointed angels. That's Jubilees 4, verse 17. Jubilees is not a part of the canon of Scripture. But it was the lost book. And there's so many things in Jubilees that verify so many other little points in Scripture, it's unbelievable. But it says that God appointed his angels to show, teach, give language and alphabet to the first scribe in human history, Enoch. It says in Jubilees 4:17, and he was the first among men that are born on the earth who learned writing and knowledge and wisdom, and who wrote down the signs of heaven according to the order of their months in a book, and that men might know the seasons of the years according to the order of their separate months. Get out of Christian theology for a minute. What does that sound like to you? It's exactly what it sounds like. It says he wrote down the signs of heaven according to the order of their months in a book, that men might know the seasons of the year according to the order of their separate months. Zodiac? Does that ring a bell to you? The signs of the heavens, the signs in the stars and in the sky, not just demarking months, but letting us know the seasons. Therefore, we can confidently affirm that the Hebrew language and its alphabet isn't man-made at all. This is tough for somebody like me. Had a conversation with Beth in the chat room in this morning's Just a Lousy Cup of Coffee. And we were talking about science versus faith in God and so on. It's a little difficult sometimes. Even though I started that way, I moved away from that because I found holes and things in theology. Didn't impress me anymore. I found the mythology hard to follow, hard to appropriate personally anymore. So, can you come to the conclusion that God, or the originator, delivered language and alphabet to mankind? It's not contrived by human invention or means. It was given to us. It was bequeathed to us. It's not man-made, despite the conclusion of some. Nor were its roots in an evolutionary journey in the process from ape to man, using grunts and coos to create language. It's a divine language with inherent power. Enoch wasn't the inventor of the alphabet. He was only the recipient of the originator's language. That was part of the great spiral of the universe. As the receiver of the alphabet, he reiterated what was shown and what was taught to him. In his book, Enoch writes that he had been shown weights and measures, and which he recorded. In Enoch's deeper understandings of things, these have been suggested to be the Hebrew letters, which were described not only as mere letters, but having number values and also measurements in the form of vibratory keys. Everything we've talked up to about holy language till now plugs in right here. The form of vibratory keys. This is also later expressed to us as frequency keys, known as Kabbalistic teaching, as the Ketev Enayim, meaning eye writings, E-I-Y-E writings. So a better assessment of Enoch's book reveals that not only did he receive knowledge from above, but he established a dialogue, speaking with God and his angels in the Hebrew language. This language was probably already familiar and fluent to Enoch because it was spoken to him by his relatives before him: Adam, Eve, Seth, his father Jared. However, writing was something new that was emerging and was taught to Enoch by God's appointed angels. Get fluffy, feathery angels out of your mind. Angels, that is just angelos. That is malosh, malachim. The angels, the melachim, the messengers of God, came down and delivered. Who were the messengers of God? Who taught Enoch how to write? Who gave him the language in the written form? The messengers of God. So God's appointed messengers. This language and its writing was passed to Enoch by Enoch to the following generations that came after him. Enoch, also the great-grandfather of Noah, was the father of Methuselah. Methuselah was the father of Lamech. And finally, Lamech was the father of Noah. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Therefore, because it exists today, the book of Enoch would have been present with Noah and his family on the ark, if you believe that story. Noah would have taken that book with him. The book of Enoch, chapter 68:1, says this: "And after that, my great-grandfather Enoch gave me all the secrets in the book and in the parables which had been given to him, and he put them together for me in the book of parables." That's Noah. The book of Enoch was in Noah's possession. And this brings us right back to Enoch and this brings us right back to the Tower of Babel, which starts shortly after the great worldwide flood with Noah and his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Genesis 9:18 through 29 says, "The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These were the 3 sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered over all the earth. They all spoke the same language. Why? They all came from one guy, Noah, his 3 sons. They spoke the same language, and they spread over the earth. Now the whole world had one language, it says in Genesis 11, and a common speech. As men moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. And this is where, as we already covered a day or two ago, the building of the ziggurat, the building of the Tower of Babel. Now, I also think it's a very interesting study to look at the location of Eden and how people spread out from that region and where they went. Do you think Eden is identifiable today, even after a great deluge of 8,000 years ago or so, when this happened? Did it leave geographical marks that you could trace? Were rivers that existed before the flood still there after the flood? Had they shifted course any? Or had, when the water dried down, did those river valleys still exist? Still where they were? Let's see. I'm curious. I may have shown this to you before. I'm going to see if I have this image. This is an image I made for the rise and fall of the Nephilim. I may have shown this to you before. It's a map of Eden. There it is. I do have it. So I'm going to open this up and put this in my window. Boom, there it is. I got to shrink it down a little bit, guys. So it looks like this. Let's get it in there. Okay, here you go. This kind of gives you a lay of the land where Eden may have been located. Okay, take a look at this. All right, here you go. I'm going to move that up a little bit. First of all, you have the Black Sea at the very north. You can see that sea up there, right up here in the north. I'm pointing with my mouse. You can't see my mouse. Then you have the Caspian Sea off to the upper right-hand corner. So this gives you the region you're looking at. Down in the lower left, you see the Mediterranean Sea. You can see where Israel is today along the coast. Very tiny, right under the word Israel, or right to the right of it. You see the River Jordan, and the Sea of Galilee is that little dot in the river running down to the Dead Sea, right above the W on the compass. You see Mount Hermon in the north of Israel. This is where the book of Enoch says that the watchers, the B'nai Ha-Elohim, the sons of the Elohim, came down, set foot on Mount Hermon, and decided to go in amongst human women and breed with them in that region. Now over here to the east, right in the center, you see the big word Iraq. This is the country of Iraq. Way over to the far right, you see Iran. This is Iraq and Iran where they sit today. If I lifted this up just a little bit, you're going to see at the bottom left, you see Egypt and the Nile Delta and then the Nile River. You see the Red Sea is that left finger, and Gulf of Aqaba is over there on the right. You see way over to the right-hand corner, you can see, and I don't have it marked. Is this the Gulf of Aqaba? What is this? This is Saudi Arabian Peninsula is down here to the south. So up out of the Gulf of Aqaba to the far right comes the Arabian Sea, I suppose you could call that. You see the rivers coming up. The one river that splits into two. You've got the Tigris River to the north. You've got the Euphrates River to the south. And in the middle of all this, you see way down at the southern tip of the rivers, you see the city of Ur. This is Ur of the Chaldees, where Abram came from. And Abram would have traveled way over to the west and settled in Israel. What became Israel? Canaan. You see the city of Uruk. Uruk is the city that is mentioned in the book of Genesis. That it says in Cain, after he murdered Abel, he went east to the land of Nod. And you see where Nod is here? Right over Iran. He went east to the land of Nod. He married a wife. And he settled and he built a city. And he named the city Enoch, it says in the Bible. Now, Enoch Through linguistics, Enoch, the E becomes a U sound, a UR sound. The K sound is still there. Enoch is the same city as Uruk. Uruk, meaning Iraq. So you have down here the land of Nod. He went a little south to the river, the Euphrates, and he built the city of Uruk. And Uruk just simply means first beautiful city. That's the city he built. This is the land of Sumer. You see Babylon to the north of that. You also see Akkad. And Eridu is down in between all of this on the lower extent of the river Euphrates. Now the Eden region. If Eden existed, this is where it was. The Eden region, or the Garden of Eden. What does it say in the Bible? It says that it was flanked by the Pishon River. If you look up here right above the word Nod, emptying into the Caspian Sea, the Pishon River. Then you see, where's the Gihon? There was the Gihon River. Oh, there it is. It's up north. There you see the Gihon River. You see the Pishon River below it. You see the Tigris River. These are the boundaries of Eden as described in the book of Genesis. So you can look by satellite and you can see the ancient tracks of these rivers. And they're pretty close to where they are now, although they have shifted a little bit. This, in the middle of those three rivers, where you see those two lake bodies, this is the region of Eden, where all of this happened. And so that's where, supposedly, according to, I'm going to turn that map off, and we'll go back to just my face. There you go. That's one of the advantages, by the way, of being here and watching the video, is you can see some of the junk I put up from time to time. So the Tower of Babel and the plain of Shinar. You had, after they left the ark, it says, now the whole world had one language and a common speech. As men moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. And leaving the ark, and Shinar, that's in the whole Euphrates River Valley there. Leaving the ark after the flood waters had dissipated, all the descendants of Noah moved eastward to Shinar. This became the place where they built the Tower of Babel, in which they all spoke one language, and the language was Hebrew, what we call Hebrew. The very same language and writing that Noah learned from his great-grandfather Enoch, who received that from the originator, the creator. So this was the very same power that was abused and caused God to confuse the languages at the Tower of Babel. And the unraveling question still remains, where did they get the idea to build a tower that would be capable of harnessing such power? Perhaps this idea was nothing new because it foreshadowed another, earlier monumental structure that was capable of mastering the inherent powers of the Hebrew language, and the people of Shinar sought to harness it once again. This brings us to the Great Pyramid of Giza, one of the 7 wonders of the world. And surprisingly, this brings us all the way back to Enoch again. And you know what? We're going to have to hit that tomorrow. We're pretty much at the end of tonight's time. We've got more to talk about with Enoch. I want to talk to you about the knowledge of the stars and the seasons that came from Enoch, the origination of the calendar, the first scribe in human history. This is where the Great Pyramid of Giza. This is where we can come back to that and see why this was built the way it was built. So, folks, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy this stuff as much as I do. Tomorrow, more on Enoch, more on the Great Pyramid in Egypt. It's going to be interesting stuff. Might stretch your imaginations a bit, but we're going to go there. Thanks for being here. You guys have a good night. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same channel. And if you're not joined on my YouTube channel, please hit that join button. Check out the memberships. See where you want to be. Love to have you. So you guys have a good night. We'll see you in 23 hours.